get this set up to record. Getting ready to record. Okay, that's it. Does what it needs to do, and then we should be ready to go. All right, we are definitely streaming and we are recording. So we're going to go ahead and make the magic happen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the author, Andrew Snorton, and you are joining us for All About the Authors. This is the roundtable discussion that we do every second and fourth Sunday about this time. We took off the month of December, holiday season. We had to kind of, control ourselves during the hustle and bustle. But every second and fourth Wednesday at about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have at least two great authors that are we're excited about to share about their work and things along those lines. So the best ways to enjoy this edition will be to add us on Facebook at All About the Authors 520. And it is already streaming, so you can just hit share with all your friends and colleagues who are fans of reading. You can also add us at All About the Authors 520. That will be on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. In addition to this live streaming as it is right now, and especially, those of us that are joined in on Zoom, you can also see the full piece on our YouTube channel, which is All About the Authors 520. So again, we are real excited, to be here today. And we've got two great authors that are joining us, people that I've been fortunate to know for just a little bit, but when they get a chance to stop in, it's a wonderful thing. So we'll have individual segments for both where they're going to share the work that they're doing. And then when we do our group recap, they've got an amazing collaborative piece that if you have not picked it up, you definitely want to make sure to do so. So I'm really excited to have both Francine Breakfield and LD Wells joining us today. Ladies, how are you doing this afternoon?
Great.
Wonderful. Like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on. Francine, if it's all right, we'll start with you first. And if you could do us a favor, especially for those that might not be familiar with you, could you let us know where you're based out of and a few of your moving parts?
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Francine. All my friends affectionately call me Fran. And I am right here from the ATL, born and raised, native. So by trade, I am a high school guidance counselor. This is my 23rd year counseling students in the Metro Atlanta area. But I've always had a passion for art and for poetry and writing.
Awesome. So let me ask you this, and this is a question that I guess a number of us get asked. You have all these awesome moving parts professionally, community-wise. What would you say tapped into your interest in honing your writing skills?
Well, it's always been there. I think my earliest writing piece was I'm a pastor's child, and every Easter we were given these speeches to read, and I'm like, I want to write my own speech. So the happy Easter, Jesus is risen again was a little played out. So I was like, you know what, I could do this. So my first little book was like a combination of kind of Easter pieces and all kind of poems that were, and also I play the piano as well. So I kind of started writing songs when I was the choir director in my father's church. So I kind of got into that. And I attended Southwest Middle School, which is now Gene Child's Young Middle. And in one of the programs I participated in, they did a published collection of writing. So kind of like an anthology, actually. That's what it was called. So during my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade year, I was always kind of interested in making sure that I had something published in that children's anthology. So that's kind of where the spark started. I kind of stopped, while I was at UGA, didn't write as much. And then when I got divorced, I had some time on my hand, and I just started writing again. It was very therapeutic for me.
And I'm glad you said that, because for some people, and regardless of what level you take your writing, part of it is finding that release and finding your voice. So
Yeah.
now here you are with your release, with your voice. How would you say it progressed to you finally getting your first published work?
Well, my first published work I don't really talk about because it's erotica. And so as an educator, you have to be careful about that. So I did it under a whole different name. But that was kind of my release of, I've been through this divorce. I've dealt with these crappy men, so that's where that came from. But and that was also kind of like I don't know, I kind of treated it as a guinea pig to learn the things about self-publishing, because I had talked to Nisi in that same year. That was in 2012. And so I was like, okay, so now that I kind of know how to do it, now we can, it really helped us when we got ready to publish, our joint project. After that, I took some time off, and then I work with children, as I mentioned. So I did start venturing into children's books. However, the thing about that is, of course, you have to also have an awesome illustrator to get your story out. And then with the Black Atlanta project, which is my last project that just came out in 2020, that was a project I had been working on for about 3 years, because it also involved me taking pictures and doing photography, which was another new passion and new hobby for myself.
And it's great that people are seeing that even when you write, you're not limited to just doing one style or one topic. Start off a little bit with the book that is on your right-hand side, but for us, it's viewing it on your left.
Okay.
Walk through the title and what are some of the themes that you're able to cover?
Okay. Well, this was my first children's book. I've written 3, but this is the only one that is published because, as I mentioned, the process of working with the illustrator is not a quick and easy thing. So this book, for those of you who are aspiring children's authors, just, take that into consideration. I did have kind of like a sketch. I can do art as well, but I kind of sketched out what I saw in my mind. But the title of the book is Proud to Be a PK. And for those of you who don't know, PK stands for Preacher's Kid.
I know.
Yeah, so this is called Proud to Be a PK, and I did make the main character a young man. But basically, it just talks about him, getting up in the morning and getting ready for church, and listening to the preachers preach, and listening to the choir, going to Sunday school. So it's basically just his journey of what it's like to be a preacher's kid, and for all those preachers kids out there, that your church is your life. It was for me, like kindergarten through 18, all the way through high school, and even once I got to college. But it is a lifestyle, and a lot of people don't know that. So, so that was my first my children's book.
You are you are an usher. You in the choir. You are the secretary. You are.
Yeah, you learn everything about running a church administration. Like I said,
wherever there's a boy, that's what you become.
Yeah. And our church was mostly children, but we had a children's choir, so I was playing the piano at 12, and kind of directing that and finding songs, and with Sunday school classes, doing vacation Bible school. It's something every Saturday, every Wednesday, every Sunday.
Absolutely. I am very familiar with that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And while not to the same degree, you kind of see it up close and from afar, but it's great that you were able to tap into some of those themes and ideas just to kind of, for lack of a term, to shed a little bit more light. Now, talk to us about, and I remember when you dropped this during the fall, just the creativity, and not only that, really capturing, it's more than just capturing a vibe, it's really capturing a narrative that people need to be reminded of. So share with us your book on the left, the title, and really what was the motivation behind getting that one done?
Okay. Well, this one is Black Atlanta. So a few years back, there was a program at SCAD that encourages educators to take art classes. So my mother was an art teacher, and as I mentioned, I always loved painting and doing those sorts of things. So they offered a free photography class. And so one thing that our instructor, our teacher told us, she was like, just start taking pictures of things you love. And so, y'all know I love Delta, I love UJ, but I love Atlanta, Hey, Samara. So I love the ATL because that's where I'm from, and a lot of time we meet people now, they're not from here, they're transplants. So I kind of wanted to start, that's where it started. I just started taking pictures. Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what, this would be a great coffee table book. So in addition, because I'm a poet at heart, it is a collection of about 70 photos and 40 poems about Atlanta. So, well, from my perspective, and Atlanta the way it was when I was growing up in Atlanta. So, Nisi and I both are from the ATL. She went to one of the rival high school that I attended. But, there are poems in here about our APS schools, poetry about the varsity, about yeeking it up, which was a style of dance we did back in the 90s. There's a piece here about missing murdered children, because that was real talk. We lived through that when we were children. There are pieces in here, even a couple of pieces about UGA. And so just kind of how, once I got to UGA, even though my parents went to a HBCU, kind of why I decided to, go to UGA and what I did when I got there. So it's really about, kind of, and the tagline is what you really know about the Dirty South. I incorporate hip hop in here. I shout out, lots of our hip hop artists. And the way I kicked the book off is I actually filmed a video. So we did kind of like a rap video of one of the pieces in the book. It's called We're ATLians. And that was kind of our kickoff and launch. So of course, as I mentioned when we were talking earlier, it wasn't, of course, what I had dreamed it to be, because we're in a pandemic, but it has reached a lot of people, and I have enjoyed working on it. It took 3 years, but I'm just glad to birth it out. So, yeah.
And I'm glad that you shared that, because it does great things. Some great things really do take time. And it sounds like during the 3 years, when you think about the photos compiled, the personal reflections, tapping into other people, especially folks that were growing up during that era, when all of a sudden Atlanta went from being a city to being really like, this is a major hub. This is where things take place. I'm glad that my co-host, and I know one of your sorors, not by accident, it just so happened, Ty is on here. Ty, in listening to Fran's retelling, what are some questions that you have for her?
First, I would like to apologize. I had a family emergency right before this call, and I'm not going to go into detail, but it was something serious. So I don't disrespect your time. I was excited. I've been up clubhousing since about 4 a.m. Then I got back up doing the same thing, and of course, having praise and worship. So I was so excited to spend this time with you all. And of course, the devil is busy, but I will not give him any credit. God is good, and I just want to apologize for my tardiness. I am just excited about what you got going on, Fran, and you're speaking my language, and when you're saying PK and all that. So for me, my grandfather, my mother's father, was a minister, and so by default, I'm a GPK, okay? And so wherever she went, I had to be there too. So I understand about filling all the voids and doing all the things that need to be done. My sister was the one playing the piano at 12, but and my godfather, who is like a father to me, is a pastor as well, and he's still alive. I love him to pieces. So I have experienced it all my life. You are a special individual, and I can feel your energy through a virtual experience, and I just love the fact that you went a different direction. And I always talk about how if you want to know an adult, if you really want to understand an adult, and if you really when adults have issues and you're trying to understand the surface of it, reflect back to their childhood, because there is a kid in all of us, right? And that kid has a whole nother story, right, that the adult person don't really want to talk about. And sometimes sometimes it's something positive, and sometimes it's some challenges, but nevertheless, it's in us. It's in all of us. And so I'm just excited about the fact that you're creating something that's vibrant and fun and educational and motivational for kids, because I feel like if we can speak to those kids as a kid and not as the adult, the kid that's in the adult, then we can change the whole trajectory of the adult, right?
Yeah.
Because now we have something as a kid that we can relate to, and that's fun and inspiring. So, you know, and no better person than a PK, you know, a PK, because you've experienced, you know, you have a spirit, you're spiritually grounded for one, right? And you're a Delta girl, so you're wild and fun. So you got two personalities, right? You get the best of both worlds. No, Drew, you wasn't ready for all this. But look,
I'm just happy to be here.
Look, you get the best of both worlds in with your personality, and so I'm just excited. This is something that I can definitely promote. And you gave another side, like you said, you got the erotic side, you know. So that's your what you call it, your alter ego, if you will. And I think that's great. You kind of remind me of Zane. Zane is my friend. You know, she's a well-renowned author. And when you meet Zane, you would not pick Zane out. You'd be like, that ain't Zane. She looks so calm and cool and collective, and she looks so wholesome, you know. And so I just love that you can be every woman, all that, you know, it's inside of you, and you do it naturally, as the song says. So tell me what you got next. I want to know the kid, the innocent kid part, and I want to know the spicy Delta erotica part. Tell me about it. Tell me.
Well, I think my next project, I do have a couple of more children's books in me, and like I said, I do paint, but it's such a long process because it takes about a year. Even if me working with Starbucks Pierce, shout out to my illustrator, Starbucks Pierce. He's from New Orleans, but never met him face to face, but just sending him things via email, kind of what I had in mind. It was a year-long process. So as I mentioned, for all those children book writers out there, that is definitely something to consider. It helps when you have a vision, but if you're not an artist yourself, you're relying on someone to kind of put that vision on pages for you.
Awesome. So he's from New Orleans. That's my homeboy. We just connected in so many ways. So many ways. I love it. And I love the fact that you gave him recognition. And that's what we have to do more of, not feeling like if we don't mention someone or promote or support someone, that it's going to take away from us. Because when any seed you sow, even with your tongue, I know for a fact that God will give you a harvest for it. So thanks for giving him that shout out as well. And we look forward to what you got coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, like I said, we have two great authors that are here, and and I'm really excited to introduce our next author, LD Wells, who has just a similar presence, a similar outstanding body of work. How are you doing this afternoon?
Well, hey there, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure and a privilege. And again, for our viewers, to give them a point of reference, walk through where you're based out of and just a few of your moving parts.
All right, so I'm from Atlanta as well. I think Fran said that in her intro. Born and raised here. I am a Grady baby, okay? Georgia Peach. Fran and I are actually line sisters. We pledged together at University of Georgia, Zeta Psi chapter, and we're getting ready in a couple of weeks to celebrate 27 years of scholarship, sisterhood, and service. Amen. I see you, Soror. Yeah, I'm from here. What kind of lent itself to my solo project is a couple of things. I studied English when I was at UGA. I started off as a business major, but I kept writing everybody's people were paying me to write their English papers for them. And English was consistently the courses that I was getting all A's in. So some wonderful person pulled me to the side and said, why don't you just major in English? And I was like, well, what am I going to do with that? Well, I figured out what to do with it. So amen on that part as well. but I've been writing all of my life. I've been journaling since I was a little girl. I was the girl that always had the little kitty journals, and I wrote everything. I love to make lists. I mean, writing is just kind of in me. It's of me. I can't help it. And then on the religious side, I worked for 5 years here in Atlanta as an administrator for a local church. And the pastor that I worked with, Reverend William Holmes Robinson, actually committed the forward to my project, which is Prayers from a Grateful Heart. And what birthed that particular project is I was sitting in worship service on New Year's Eve. And the minister admonished us, do something for God this year. Just do something for God. And so I really, took that in, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to do for 365 days, I'm going to write down prayers, just thanking God for what he's already done. I'm not going to ask him for anything. I'm just going to write prayers. And so it turned into me, anything that was going on in my life at work, in sorority, with family, whatever it may have been, I started praying about those too and thanking God for outcomes that I wanted to see as if they were already here. And so I learned the idea of using your prayers and using your words and speaking words of life directly into your daily world. And so thanking God, yes, thanking him for what he's already done, but thanking him for things that you don't see yet as if they are already here. And so that was kind of the framework that I set for that. And I didn't realize until maybe August of that year, this could help somebody. Because at that point, I had cried all through what I had written. I couldn't even read it anymore. But I said, but if I can take some of what is happening and transforming my life and put it into a project for someone else, I would love to put something like that out into the world. And so, long story short, that's how we got here.
And I'm glad that you shared that, because listening to that narrative, and I'm sure all of us have heard this, there's power in the tongue.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And there's another thing, borrowing from one of my favorite books, As a Man Thinketh. So
Yeah.
what you think is going to probably translate here, and what you put out here, the whole, what you put out sometimes is what you take in.
Absolutely.
And what you said is being in a state of thanks, even the way that life hits us left, right, front, back, side to side, upside the head, all over, that you still maintained your perspective. That is so huge. Hi, is there something that you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, and so I thought about, as I started to turn it from my thoughts or my prayers personally to God to a project that someone else would find purposeful. I was looking at all of the different journals that I've done before in my lifetime. And I said, I hate that they start January 1, because what if I buy it in May, right? Then do I wait until January 1, or am I off track with whatever the dates are? And so I said, I won't have a date in mind. I'll just have day 1. So no matter when you pick up my project, you can start. You have the empowering notion to say, this will be the day that I begin. And so I wanted to be really thoughtful about that. I also, for some of us who maybe aren't we have great hearts. We desire to do great things before God, but then it starts to feel like a chore, right? So I wanted to be intentional about that too. So my daily entries are more like nuggets, something you can do, especially for the busy person who still wants to dedicate that time. It's just a little small, something that you want to read through each day. And then you'll do a global declaration where you're saying kind of we, us, our. And then when you end it off, it's a personal prayer where you've taken it from being global with your brothers and sisters to personally, for me, God, hear me. And so I wanted all of those things to be a part of the project so that the experience would be different for the person who is busy, or the person who is new to the faith, or the person who just doesn't want to spend a whole lot of time in that type of engagement.
Powerful. Ty, I know how active your mind is, Ty. I know you've got something that you want to add to that, or even continue to amplify this message.
Well, I want to say good afternoon, Soror.
Good afternoon.
And she let us know that she is a Grady baby. So,
Yeah.
I always have to just bring a little spice to every interaction, my first interaction with you, so you'll remember me. And I love when people say that, because I think everybody is like Atlanta is just from just a place, it's a gumbo pot of migrants, of people all over the place. So I am always excited to meet someone that is truly from Atlanta. It's almost like we all just took over your city.
For sure.
And people
Sure. I mean, Fran can attest, growing up here, it looks very different than it did when we were little girls, for sure.
Wow. And what way would you say that, in a positive, or, I mean, I know it's always some bittersweet to everything, but share with me what you mean by that.
So my funny story is I actually came home for the weekend from UGA one weekend. And there was a neighborhood, or there was a piece of land adjacent to my family's neighborhood. And it was just woods and trees and what have you.
Right.
And I had been home the weekend before, and maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I was coming home again because, I wanted to get some food out of my mama's refrigerator. You know how we did that?
Glory.
And literally, they had, in that small amount of time, what felt like they had taken tractor trailer, like those prefab homes, and brought them in and put them in those plots of land. And the area where I grew up was South Cobb Drive and Bolton Road, right in between that area, right? Bankhead. They started building new properties there and calling that full span of Bolton Road Vinings. And so, everything just kind of changed. These prefab homes went up, and it felt like overnight.
Wow.
And then, of course, the emergence of things like Atlantic Station, where you're walking around and you're like, this looks like New York. This doesn't look like Atlanta. And so you could start to feel and see kind of the nuances from other cities, really, as you said before, kind of taking over. And I still remember it like it was yesterday, that we just had a lot more forest, greenery, and trees. And now we don't have that.
And you had more of a southern feel, because I'm from the South and Louisiana. So there are certain expectations. It's just that makes you feel home, that makes you have a hug when it's a feeling, it's a smell, it's a feeling that I get when I drop down, when I see the little pelican and say, welcome to Louisiana, that I have an expectation when I drop down. And so I can understand, how that may have just interrupted, the feeling and the culture and the tradition that you thought you would always have and share with your family, your kids and grandkids and all that. That's definitely not the case anymore. So I appreciate you sharing that. And one more little nugget I wanted to add is that I wish you were in college with me to help me write some of my papers. But right now, and as a writer, even when I write stuff, I deal with so many different celebrities, and they're always asking me for different things. I thank God for Drew. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but they're at the point that they know he critiques a lot of my stuff. So, and he's trustworthy, because he is a SME when it comes to editing and critiquing things. And I really feel like he should never make a mistake. And I know he's human, but so it seems like you all have that in common as it relates to grammar, graphics, images, and critiquing as well as in English. But I just want to say that very inspiring and very personal. Like when you were speaking, it's very personal, and I like that about writers when so often we try to do things that's a fad, or what would people think, or what would people do, or this is what people want, and not making it really personal, because and personal is not always popular, but it's purposeful. And it sounds like what you are presenting in this project is purposeful and is needed, and somebody needs it. And you have to think about, like when I did my first book, I was, I remember, because I'm a person, a little bit about me. And you'll probably say, oh, it makes sense now. I have ADHD and I suffer from dyslexia. So you imagine those two things colliding together, trying to write a book? Okay. Sounds like a bomb about to explode. But I remember when I was doing interviews and I was really coming into my career at the time, And I remember people saying, well, are you going to write a book? Are you going to tell your story? And I'm like, me write a book? Not happening, right? And as God was repositioning me, and PK, you feeling me on this, and you'll tell God what you're not gonna do, and he gonna tell you no what you gonna do. And I think he holds you accountable a little different when you grew up in the birth of a church. Like, you know me better than that, and you know not to play with me. And so I'm sitting here trying to write a book, and at the time I knew nothing about ghostwriters, because I keep thinking I would have had you, songwriter, could write me. You write papers. I know you could have helped me write my book. At the time, I knew nothing about ghostwriters. So I'm saying, I'm writing this book and I'm trying to figure it out and make it right. But God he will always make provisions for your purpose. Yes. If you stay on the journey, on your journey, you can't shift to what's popular and all these things. You got to stay purposeful. And I remember after I wrote my book, my pastor told me, he said, I knew you wrote this book because, some humor in it. He was like, I could just hear you saying this. And so even though I thought, it should have been more maybe critiqued, or should have been, maybe I could have said it better. And even though I have the degrees and all those things, my dialect is my dialect. And I've never been an English guru at all, right? Because there was times when, it took me a minute to read correctly, right? So I've always had that challenge. But in the process of it, people felt me, right? And when they met me, they say, "Oh, you Ty," and they can correlate to that person they read, and that's so important. That even when it doesn't seem so polished or perfect, that you give somebody the whole you, right? And you're giving them that. And that's what I feel, that when you were talking about the stories and how you were able to put your project together, that you gave them all of you, and that there is somebody who needs you. They don't need you to be anybody else, even though if because we're very critical of ourselves and like, oh, should we put that in? Should we put not? Were you experiencing that when you were writing?
Yes, it literally happened around August. I was writing and I was crying, and it was a very cathartic experience. And I heard a little still voice. I do a lot of Fran knows. I do a lot of my writing or thought processes. I don't know why God wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but that's the deal we have.
Uh-huh.
And I really heard his voice say, this is to bless someone else. Because you are blessing me, I will bless you with this as your next project. Wow. And then I was like, oh man, that's, I didn't want to take the ownership of it. I delayed it. I didn't do it when I was told to do it. It took actually another 1.5 years, almost 2 years before I actually put it out as a project. And the year that I did have it scheduled to come out, I was hit by a tractor trailer.
Oh my God.
And I had made the commitment and the vow that it would come out that year. I'm trying not to get emotional.
All right.
And so very last day of that year, December 31st, 2017, I launched the book and pressed send. And I was dealing with the fact that it wasn't 365 days. And then I heard God say, do what I've told you. You can break it up. People need small chunks anyway. The same way you're doing the small nuggets on the inside, the project itself should be small nuggets too. Do 90 days. But, meet the request that it is that I've given you. And so that was the last thing I did in 2017. I was getting it out. And then I never toured with it. I never really did anything with it because I was in so much pain from the accident. But God is faithful. God is amazing. And platforms now in this virtual setting have become open for me. And so I don't have to worry about touring and standing and my back hurting or any of that. In this virtual setting like we're in now, do what it is that I need to do in order to make this hit the world the way that it needs to. And so I'm just incredibly grateful for this platform and for others that are making it possible to share what's been on my heart for many years now.
That is just an amazing testimony. Just an amazing testimony. Well, you had us getting emotional as well. God is so amazing. He's so amazing. And, I tell people all the time, I don't know what your belief is, but I'm going to talk about God anyway, because I just can't help it. And I joke a lot. I have a very unique personality. But when it comes to him, it's just all glory and admiration, because and don't take this the wrong way. It's almost, sometimes do you ever like laugh or cry? Because you like, when God tell you to do something, you don't do it. And it's like, oh, he ain't playing. Like, it's like, he will, it's true. It is so true when we use it so loosely. Delayed is not denied. But when we are all born with a purpose, I tell people all the time, just like we born with eyes and toes and fingers and nose, we born with a purpose. And God will do everything he can to help us fulfill it if we allow him to order our steps.
Amen.
And a lot of times we be pushed, we are the ones that delay what we have. And he still doesn't deny it. But God will allow things to happen. And sometimes bad things, as I say, I went through Hurricane Katrina, then a few years ago, I lost everything I owned again. And I just felt like it wasn't fair. And I just looked up at him and told him about himself, how it felt like it wasn't fair, that I got to start over again. But what he was doing was thrusting me. He was thrusting me. And sometimes we got to pulled down, beat up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Have a little backache, a little headache, for us to focus on him. He has to totally, like when we're very strong-willed, we don't just listen like we supposed to do. You know, you have to, you tell your children and then you got to pop them because they don't hear it, And so that's what, the more powerful we are and more destined we are, the more he got to pop us for us to hear him, to follow through with the purpose of our lives. And that's what it sounds like. God said, oh, we're going to have it. We're going to do it. And guess what? Even with that, I feel like that you are able to bring more substance to that project because of the pain. Does that make sense?
Lord have mercy. Listen. And part of it was I was so busy. I was ripping and running and doing everything else. And I didn't understand it at the time. But when I was able to sit down, when I had to sit down, I was able to finish what it is that I had, because I would start and stop and, and I was trying to make it to 365 days. Here's the part that you're not going to believe. When I sat down to actually finish, and I had the word in my spirit, do 90 days. I opened up where I was, and I was already on day 87. I only needed 3 more entries.
Obedience is better than sacrifice. And we just listen to him. If we could tap in, like they say, the young kids say, tap in. If we could just tap into God, he will never leave us or forsake us. We make stuff so much harder for ourselves.
So much.
That's an amazing. I got chills. Wow, what an amazing testimony. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. What do you have coming up next that you're going to really listen to this time?
Well, I'm turning a little bit more into the speaking environment because, of course, due to COVID.
Right.
I'm doing a lot of promotional things. In my day-to-day job, I work for the state of Georgia. I'm in communications and PR. And so we are heavy doing virtual road shows and, of course, talking about the issues that are pertinent to the citizens of Georgia. And so I feel like I'm on a Zoom like every day. There's a speech to do every day. I'm writing talking points for our leadership every day. All of those things are going on. And then personal invitations as well are coming for me to do more speaking. And I just recently finished, I'm a certified coach, speaker, and trainer through John C. Maxwell. So I'm marrying completely now the communications and PR, the English, and the speaking and writing and coaching and training.
That's awesome. Let me tell you, he will not only push and give us a little pain, but he will position us for our purpose. And I remember when you were saying that, I was just like, I just had a flashback of after Hurricane Katrina, because again, this was something like, a life shift for us, just like this pandemic. I know it was more isolated, the city of Louisiana, the state of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans, but it was a big deal. And so I remember when I was a sales manager for a sales supervisor at the time for Cox Communications, and I was really, fresh into management, out of college or whatever. And I remember when they wanted someone to be the liaison and be on the Rebuild New Orleans committee. And so, I had a lot of tenured people that had been working there. So, a lot of times when you come in and you're younger and you're fresh and everybody like, oh, she's just doing the most. She'll see in a few years, she'll stop doing all that. Well, I was the person, I'm still the person with all this energy years later. But yeah, so I remember them coming to having a group meeting and asking everyone, we need a liaison. We need a person to speak for and on behalf of Cox Communications, because we dealt with a lot of vendors like the BTs and HBOs and of that world. And so you just kind of be the glue. And everybody was like, are we gonna get paid? And it was like, no. And so everybody was like, well, I'm not doing it, or whatever. So it was like, Ty, we think you'd be perfect. Would you do it? And I'm sitting there like, is this a setup, And I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I didn't get paid to do it. But what it did was, again, it was another thrust where, like when you were saying, people are now asking me. So I began to just talk about the things that were going on as relates to, the city rebuilding, the technology, Lifeline products that we offered. And then somebody came and said to me, I'll never forget, how much do you charge to MC? And I said, huh? At the time, I didn't even know what they were talking about. And that's why it's like, I tell people all the time, do not attach your purpose to money, okay? Absolutely. The money will come, the opportunities will come. And sometimes, again, people miss it. They miss it because they start operating in their flesh and they can't see the purpose in it. Like I say, everyone else was saying, they had way more experience than me too, to add, because I was the new supervisor, right? Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's no money, nah, let her do it, and I stepped up and, here I am. That's 17, well, how long has it been since Katrina? But God has allowed me to grace the stage with Charlie Wilson, Frankie, all these different people, for me stepping up for something I didn't get paid for. And Absolutely. Then God will send people to you. You don't even have to look for it. Absolutely. And they'll start asking you, and it could be something off topic from what you're even doing. As long as you're yourself and you operate in what it is that God wants you to, he will make room. When he say he'll make room for your gift, PK, he will definitely make room. Some of these things I heard as a kid meant nothing to me. And now I'm just like, oh, that's what they meant. That's what my papa meant. He will definitely make room for your gift. So just get ready.
And what's coming in my spirit right now is all things work together. And you don't necessarily connect the dots when it's happening, but you'll start to look back at things that happened, like Fran said, when she was a child, things that happened when you were in undergrad, things that are happening now. You were on this job, you got promoted to this particular position, but this one was really more in line with what you should have been doing. All things. And then you can look back and see where the destiny that he has promised or ordained for your life has taken into consideration all of those different facets. And then you end up exactly square in your purpose and where he would have you be. But you didn't know that that's what was going on.
No, you didn't know you had to have an accident. All things. You didn't know. I didn't know I had to lose my job. All things. I didn't know I had to lose everything I owned in my house and be homeless. All things. All things. Even when it look real dirty and nasty, the pain has a purpose.
Definitely. And I tell you what,
we about to preach today. We might need to take this on the road.
Okay, let's do it. You don't have to look. Sarah, don't tease me with nothing. Drew will tell you, I'd be like, I'm ready for everything.
I tell you what, and this is great when we're sharing and exchanging. And the key thing is, and we were talking about this beforehand, weathering the storm. Mm-hmm. I think all of us, through professional, personal, everything in between, just holding firm and weathering the storm, and think about the possible and positive outcomes that can come from it. And like I said, all of us to varying degrees have talked about this. Now, as we normally do our recap, I think this is a great time when we talk about all of us to varying degrees are doing some seed planning. I
Mhm.
really want both Fran and Ms. Wells to really talk about the collaborative piece that it's not only on time leading up to this Wednesday, but it's on time in regards to the great and positive things that can happen. And I know there's a saying where two or more are gathered. So I'd like for you both to talk about the collaborative anthology that that was done, and really again the positivity and the purpose behind that, and especially with a lot of this seed planting and speaking into life and speaking into existence.
Well, as I mentioned, around 2012, because I knew that my line sister was the bomb.com editor and English major, as she mentioned, I had an idea. It came from my dissertation. So I graduated from Georgia Southern in 2010, wrote a dissertation about how Black women mentor each other. Okay. Of course, we see in the media, sometimes that, or we're portrayed as if we are not on one accord. So from that, when I was defending my dissertation, my professors were like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. I said, I would like to do something more creative. Dissertations are technical writing, but I would like to do something more creative with this premise that we do mentor each other. And I knew that our centennial was coming up soon. So I called Nisi, of course, first, and asked her if she would go on this journey with me, and she agreed. And so then we gathered 20 other women to join us. And that was the birth of our anthology.
Yeah, I still remember that fateful day. Fran called and she was like, what you doing? And I was like, nothing, what's going on? And she was like, you want to do a book? And so she pitched and told me what it was she was interested in doing. And I said, okay, yeah, we can do that, no problem. And so the authors started coming to us from different areas. Some we already knew. Fran had already pulled together, had her mind about some folks. And then it became kind of a bidding where folks were saying, you should talk to this person as well. This person would be good. And they started to recommend one another. And organically, it kind of created itself. And so, for lack of a better term, I'm kind of anal. Fran knew that. And we line sisters, so you know how that goes. You know which line sister is capable of what, right? And so I made this color-coded timeline, very aggressive. So it became really apparent to us, we need to have this out in time for Centennial. Right. And so we made this color-coded timeline that everybody had to adhere to. And if you couldn't adhere to the timeline, you had to make a decision about whether or not you would be part of the project, right?
I see you, Fran. I love it. Who that sound like, Drew? It's you. You Miss Wells.
I'm not going to confirm it.
Look, Drew, go dogs. And so we were good cop, bad cop, right? So I was good cop in the sense that I worked with folks to make sure that I got what they needed, or got from them what we needed. We massaged it, we edited it, we made it flow, we decided what the format should look like. And then Fran was bad cop, where I would say, Fran, Drew hadn't turned in his stuff.
that would never happen, because he's like you. He is so anal and a matter of fact. And I'm like, Fran, now I could be the bossy one, but I'm a free spirit, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so we made our timeline, and so then we pitched it. And I think this is the part that authors, and then especially new authors, have to be mindful of as well. Mm-hmm. There is an order, there is a deference, there is an acknowledgement of authors who have come before you. And for our project, you had to be a Delta in order to contribute, because we wanted this to be a centennial project. But mm-hmm. we knew we didn't have the rights to make it a Delta Sigma Theta book, right? Right.
Oh yeah, I know what you said.
But with that still being kind of the framework that it would appear as if it were an anthology of sisterhood, crimson and cream, red and white. We gave a centennial gift to everyone that was in leadership at the national level, as well as everyone that was in leadership here at the local level. We did not want them to hear about these girls done something and not be in order. And so we thank them for their leadership. And we thought it would just be really a great thing to give as a gift during a centennial period. And so that was our introduction to, here is this project that's going to hit the waves.
So as you can see on the front cover, it is a compilation of 22 shades of red. So $22, 22 authors, 22 chapters, and 22 shades. So each chapter is a shade of red. So like I'm cardinal, I think Nisi is crimson. So, you know, there's a lot in between. And it's not just poetry and short stories. There's a sermon in there. It's not just about, of course, the organization or sorority, sisterhood or friendship. It's about all types of sisterhoods. Like Nisi had written a poem for her younger biological sister. One of our line sisters wrote a poem to her brother because he was her sister. You know, I mean, the relationship they had was like, you know, I mean, they are so close that it's, you know, having a sister, but, you know, he's a brother. But yeah, those who struggle in the fight for cancer, you know, one of our poets did a dedication to her aunt, you know, so it was so
wow.
many things about friendships and having relationships with women, mentoring each other, you know. And then, of course, we were blessed to also, we were looking for someone to do the forward for our book. One of our authors knew one of the daughters of the late Ruby Dee, and she blessed us with her forward and one of her poems. So that's also in our book. So, and from that, we have started a scholarship from the proceeds of the book. And this is our second year awarding a young female student college scholarship.
And that's an interesting story too, because when we got put in touch with the family, they originally said, you know, mom really isn't into doing that right now, right? Mm-hmm. And then I sat there and I said, well, wait now, they on the phone though. I can't hang up. I cannot hang up. And so I just said, well, what can we do? Work with our soror. How can we make this happen? It would be really important to us. And she said, well, let me talk with her and someone will call you back. And I just kind of put it away. I said, I'm not going to, you know how you worry about something and you toy with something and you try to figure out, and you keep reaching back out to, you know, confirm and all. I just decided I'm not going to worry about it, because if this is meant to be, if this is ordained, it'll happen. And then sure enough, they called us back and said, mom said she really likes y'all and she likes this project. And so, and she loves Delta Sigma Theta. And so she decided that she will not only just write the forward, but she's going to add one of her poems to your collection as well.
Look at God. When it's meant to be, look, honey, he will. Honey. I tell people all the time, I said that for me just means not right now.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm telling you?
Okay, just not today, right?
Not today. So, she don't want to do it right today, but I'm gonna call tomorrow. She gonna be one. That is such a blessing. I love it. I love the concept. I'm gonna challenge you ladies to do one every so many years and bring new experiences on. I'm speaking in Jesus. I'm gonna be in the next one, and I don't know who else gonna be up in there. and I'll find you a celebrity. I'll find you a celebrity person to do them forward. Amen. Yes, Lord. I think that's a great concept, and I definitely know about how to be very respectfully using the sorority, if you will, because sometimes when you're trying to move and you're trying to do things, and that's another move of God, is how, you know, you start seeing roadblocks. Like, well, we can't use that thing, we can't use this, we can't use that. And God be like, when I say I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna do it. You just keep doing what you're supposed to. I'm gonna tell you how to figure it out. And I think sometimes we try to figure out everything and we hadn't even started. Like, just start. and he'll put all the right people in place. You know, he'll give you witty ideas and saying his word. You know, he'll have you a way to present it, and you guys have an excellent example of how you can do just that to fulfill the purpose. And I'm just such a fan. I just love y'all.
Amen.
What, just think about it. It's almost like a small committee or chapter meeting.
Drew, you did
but
good.
No, but
you did
it's
so good. I love you. Drew said, look, I've already picked the authors, and I'm like, and typically he does a really good job, but he done an excellent job this time around. even though we've dominated the platform, what Deltas do.
Well, you know what? It was in all fairness, it was just the right thing to do. I'm going to put it that simply. It was the right thing to do. And I think, what's been so fun and so positive and powerful is we've seen what we're able to do individually. And the topics and themes covered and things along those lines are narratives that need to be told. They're narratives that need to be shared. And it is seed planting. It is helping people who might have it here and may have a little bit of a difficulty of getting here. These are some of those means and vehicles by which it's like what she's written is what I'm really trying to say or talk about. What she's experienced is what I'm trying to articulate. Mm-hmm. And then when you partner together, and as we're all saying, when your minds and spirits are in the right place, it's no telling what great things can happen. And like we've all, to varying degrees, talked about, delays don't mean defeat. That's one thing all of us can talk about. We can all say, oh, looking back, we should have done this sooner. Mm-hmm. The important thing is we did it. And sometimes those delays are to make sure when you do it, you're doing it right and you're doing it effectively. And you're casting a wider net than what you're even envisioning. And even when I think about, all the sharing, exchanging we've done, especially for those that are out there, this is encouragement, if anything, to find your voice. But it's also encouragement. It's okay to pause. It's okay to be still. It's okay to listen. And that way, there might be some things that you didn't think of that are now being revealed to you to where, okay, now I see the why. Now I see this is why I'm taking this route. Nisi, like you were saying before, in pivoting back to your journal. Oh, there's the clock, making it classic. But I want to say this. You had an idea, but what came out was even bigger than your idea. And it was that much more effective. Not to say what you were doing wasn't going to be effective, but the way that it was revealed for you to make it happen, now it's even that much more impactful. And Fran, the same thing with the most recent release. It's still capturing a narrative that some people forgot.
Yeah.
And one of those you kind of, and I'm paraphrasing, you sometimes have to take a look back to see where you're going and see where you're heading. And I think that's very positive and powerful and impactful. And all of us, to varying degrees, can talk about this. As we're getting ready to kind of wind down, this is something I like to ask. This is something that's been asked of me, but let me ask you this. When you look at your experience, especially through the lens of writing, and I know there's so many lessons learned and takeaways, but what would you say would be one nugget or one takeaway you'd want to give to any current writers, aspiring writers, and just people who are passionate about reading? What would you say would be one takeaway? I know there's a bunch, but what would you say is one takeaway you'd like to leave with people? And let's start with Fran.
My first thing first piece of advice, would be just to get it written. That's the hardest part. People always come up to me, oh, I got a book in my spirit. I got a book in my mind. I got a book in my heart. I'm like, you ain't got no book on paper. You ain't got no book typed up on your laptop. So that's the hardest part. Just just a journal. If you like writing by hand better, journal. Put it on paper. Someone else could type it for you if you like. But that's the hardest part. Get it out. then once you get it out of you, then of course you can go back and edit, or you can hire somebody to edit, or you can play around with it. You have plenty of time to do that. But I think that's the largest hurdle, is just to get it out. Because it being in your heart and being in your spirit is not, it ain't gonna help.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too.
I
Very well said.
Buy a dragon, tell it, put it on tape, something,
Do something.
Yeah.
And Fran, my book was derived from journals. I've always been a journaler because my mom would always hit me in my mouth telling me that I talk too much, and I never was seemed like I just never said it right. So I would always write down what I felt. I had a little diary when I was a little girl, and then as I got older, I had journals. So when I got ready to write my book, I didn't even have to write it. It was already written.
Right.
And so that's why I started creating journals, because I'm like, this is what I always encourage people to use my journal as a form of just releasing what you got to say, and all journals. That's why I was so interested in how you put together your project, because everybody has a reason. That's why I say everything is tapped into the younger you, or something connected to you, why you do things a certain way. For me, it's just a whole bunch of writing in my journal, because it's like, I believe journals are healers. And I believe that, if you just really be transparent and write, just write. There's your story. You don't have to create it. It's there. And so that hit home to me, because that's what my book is really. All of my business in my journal became a book. So I love it.
Wow. Well, like I said, that is definitely a constructive takeaway. Nisi, same type of question. If there's a nugget or something you'd like to leave to, current writers, aspiring writers, lovers of reading, what would you say would be one takeaway you'd like to leave for this afternoon?
So two things, actually. One is set the intention, right? Make up in your mind that this is something that you want to accomplish, speak it, embody it, make it part of your daily walk. And what I mean by that is pay attention to what times are you most alert. Some people are more alert in the morning, some are in the midday, some in the afternoon. Your alert time is the time that you should be dedicating to your project. And then carve out space. You have to train your mind, body, and atmosphere that I'm going to get this project done. So where's the area where you're going to write? And the more that you go and intentionally stay in that area at the time of day that works best for you, and write something, like Fran said, just start writing. That's when you're going to make sure that your project ends. So what I did even for myself is I would go into that spot, and this is true with both books. I would go into my spot at that time of day, and even if nothing came for that particular project, I would write a list for the things that I would need to do the next day. Because it's just that exercise of writing. Write something, because then eventually the words that you need for your project will flow. If you keep telling yourself every day, same time, same spot, meet me here, it'll come.
I love that. I'm going to adopt that. I mean, not that I have a problem with writing, but I love the fact so these are the things that come in mind to me. When you say just write every day, it's like you conditioning yourself. I always, when I speak, sometimes I always refer to things as, sports, the Saints, Drew, and the teaming concept. And I like to just use real life scenarios with people. And when you said that, I immediately thought about a marathon. Like, you don't just get up and run a marathon. Okay, you can have the cutest outfit and and the shoes and stuff to match, and you can have a number on you, but you will never make it to the destination if you have not conditioned yourself. And so that's that made me just came to mind, is that you got to practice. Even if you run, people say start walking first, just start walking, and then you do a little bitty run, and then you do this, and then before you know it, then you can meet the requirements of doing a full marathon. But that's what you said that immediately, I'm like, oh, I had to write it down because I was like, that's what it made me, come to mind for me. Does that make
it's
sense
like
for you?
rehearsal. It's like rehearsal for before any major project. You're going to rehearse and do it over and over again.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I definitely tell you what, number one, before we close out, obviously, thank you both for being here. Both of you
Yes.
individually and collectively have, shared some needed messages. You provided some necessary reminders for everybody on here. And obviously, as many great things as you've already done, there's still some great things ahead. So keep with the positive movement, the positive thinking, the impactful work that you're doing. Before we close out, let's make sure people know the best ways to stay informed, engaged, and supportive of your individual as well as your collective work. So, Fran, what are some of the best ways our audience can stay informed, connected, engaged, and supportive of the work you're doing?
Website is has access to all my works. It's frantabulous.com, spelled Fran, Fran, tabulus.com. I try to keep it updated. Also on social media, my IG is black_Atlanta. So black_Atlanta. And it just kind of shows what I'm doing, around the city. So those are probably the best two ways that you can reach.
Awesome. And Fran, seriously, continued success, with all that you're doing, not only with the current projects, but the future projects. Nisi, what are some of the best ways that our audience can stay connected, informed, engaged, and supportive, and also share, the info where people can look, especially for the anthology?
Okay. So for me personally, you can find me at I am LD Wells on all social media platforms. Real simple, just I am LD Wells. And then my website is ldwells.com. And then for an anthology of sisterhood, it's an anthology of is the Facebook page, I want to say. It's sisterhood.biz is the website, and that's BIZ, sisterhood.biz. And then on the other social media platforms, I think it's at an anthology of. The one thing I do want to say, I think Fran mentioned it a tiny bit. We are in our scholarship season. We asked Ruby D, what could we do to pay her back? We knew we couldn't pay her back, but to pay her back for what it was that she had contributed to us. And her response was just pay it forward. And it was twofold. If another soror, another member of Delta Sigma Theta asked you to do something, say yes. And then just pay it forward in any way that you can. And so we created a few years ago the Ruby D Legacy of Sisterhood Scholarship. It is a partnership with DREF, Delta Research and Education Foundation is where you'll find that scholarship housed. And it's in partnership with her family, D. Davis Enterprises. And we award each year a female who is majoring in the arts or humanities that particular scholarship. And we've had two wonderful winners. For 2019, Tamia Anderson was our recipient. She was a dance major at Howard University. And then this year, we're excited. We're about to announce on January 22nd, the winner is Cameron Williams, and she is a music major at the Juilliard School.
Wow.
And so we'll share with you the information for that reception. We'll do a virtual reception with her. We wanted to do it in 2020. COVID, of course, didn't allow face-to-face, and so we finally decided we've given her the award, but we now want to do a virtual presentation for her, and that'll be on January 22nd. And it's open scholarship season. Our 2021 candidate, those applications are being received right now through DREF, and you can log on to deltafoundation.net and click on the scholarship page, and we are listed with the other scholarships that are available through DREF. And hopefully very soon we'll know. I think May 21 is how long the application is open for this year. And then we'll be announcing our 2021 winner as well.
And it's open for any junior, senior, or graduate student that is, as Nisi mentioned, pursuing a degree in the arts. We wanted to do that because a lot of times, like I mentioned, I'm a high school guidance counselor. Many of the local scholarships are only for the first year, the freshman year. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
your money runs out, students are like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? So, they may get, an additional scholarship from the university for their sophomore year, but, by the time you're a junior, it really gets, a lot of students want to move off campus and their expenses get a little bit more. So that's why we definitely wanted to target juniors and seniors and graduate students.
Help them finish. Absolutely.
Awesome work. So again, definitely, as I like to say, if this is the first time you've engaged, with our great folks, please do not let it be the last time. And if it's been a minute, like my grandma would say, go see about somebody, especially with the great work that's taking place. Ty, I'm gonna real quick, I'll share my contact info and our info, but Ty, I want you to close this one out. As a reminder, all about the authors 520. That's on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We will have this on our YouTube channel. And obviously, this is on our Facebook channel. And to stay connected with me, author A. Snorton on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, author Andrew Snorton on Facebook are the best ways. But Tom, I have you close us out for today.
He was so modest. Make sure you guys check him out. He has a lot of great things going on, a lot of interviews, new books, new audio, new merch. He's just an all-around great guy. And so whenever he fails to mention all that, I'm just here to toot his horn because he's a great partner, a great alpha man of God, and a great friend as well. And so I just have to definitely give a shout out to Drew for his partnership on this project and many more projects to come. But I just don't even want to end this. It's been so amazing. I feel like y'all we are sorors and sisters, but I'm just feeling like friends as well. And just, I feel like I knew you before this even happened. And this moment is priceless for me. You inspired me, you motivated me. And I appreciate you being so transparent and telling your stories. I'm just excited for what's to come because I know that both of you will do great things and you have the right mindset and the right foundation. And as long as you are obedient to his word, and even when you can't figure it out and don't know all the logistics behind it, remember your own story. I like to encourage people to remember their stories, because sometimes you have to reach back to what he's already done to remind you what he can't do again, because he can. And it's so amazing because I just posted today, before even talking to you all, I was just feeling, kind of at odds with things. And, we all have that moment where the flesh try to kick in. And I decided to listen to a little more church, because I've been church hopping since this been on. And I decided to go back after my pastor spoke and listen to T.D. Jakes. And then I started flipping through my phone as he was ending, and I just out of the blue, this picture of me and Oprah came up. And I actually took that picture at the Tyler Perry's launch party right after he had just spoken. And that was just like, I know that may seem strange to people, but for me, I don't know if y'all feel that connection. And I'm like, huh? And I posted it and I said, sometimes you got to remember what God has already done to remind you that he can do it again. And if he did it one time and he did it like that, just imagine how he can make it even greater later. And so I just want to encourage you all to just be ready for what's to come, because you already have an amazing piece of work already. So just imagine now that you have the experience and the platform that it's been available to us, the things that you can do. And I'm going to be cheering you on. I want to make sure that, I'm following you all. And I encourage you all to, you know, when this is over, if you have any contacts and people that you do business with, encourage them to follow us as well. You know, encourage us to follow. Say, hey, I had a great interview with these two people. One was this handsome alpha man of God that's single. See, if y'all
Oh
got
Lord, not that
and
again. Okay.
and my soror Ty, and you know, they have an amazing platform, and they wanted to make it available not just for us. So, you know, make sure that you encourage your people to connect with us, as we will encourage our people to connect with you. And that's one thing we want to do more of this year. And Drew talked about it. You know, we have these amazing conversations and they end. We don't want it to be just a conversation. We want it to be a relationship. We want to stay connected to each other. We want to support each other and tap into all the resources that we have. And if you need us, make sure you contact us and we will do the same. I just want to thank you all for being very transparent and just taking this time with us. And make sure you follow me at Fire, F-I-Y-A-H, Teresa Ty, on all platforms. I'm also on Clubhouse as just Teresa Ty.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and wind down and close out again. The live is going to be on the All About the Authors Facebook page, and we will make sure to have this on the YouTube channel, All About the Authors 520. And then during the week, we'll go ahead and do some quick edits of a couple of key points that everybody, you know, raised for today. And I guess the last quick word is, hey, just stay grounded, stay focused, stay humble, stay hungry, because there's more things out there. And of course, you know, with the presence of Delta women, we know Wednesday, January 13th, is an important day. So happy early Founders Day, 100 years under intelligence is torch of wisdom. So thank you individually and collectively, seriously, what y'all do under that umbrella. There's a lot. So thank you all.
Thank you as well. And don't forget to laugh. Don't forget to laugh.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when we do all those things and reaching goals and staying spiritually grounded, I always remind people that, you know, as we reach goals, we can also oftentimes feel anxiety, depression, and stress. That's just real. We don't really talk about it, but I always say, get you a good laugh in and make sure you have, you know, you take care of self in the process of pursuing your goals. And I just had to say that part.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to do at this point in closing out, we're going to stop the live stream.